Okay, so we have hit Big Little Lies Season 2, Episode 5, titled Kill Me. Before I jump into this review, I wanted to point something out I actually saw on the Big Little Lies Reddit last week, where someone actually caught that this season, every episode has had like 8 to 10 editors on it. And what's scary about that is that usually means there's a lot of stuff on the chopping room floor they're trying to clean up and put together, and that something went wrong in filming. And this person also had the theory that something went wrong with Andrea Arnold directing the show. The reason they say that is because she has not been on any of the press junkets for the show. She has no interviews with her about Big Little Lies. She's been MIA. So you wonder if something went on there between her and HBO, and having, again, all these editors on it, seeming like it's like a mop-up job. I don't know. This is just speculation. I just wanted to throw it out there because I thought that was very interesting. And to add to that person's theory, from my point of view, it is interesting that now, again, we get another 45-minute episode, seeming like, again, they're working with thin amount of footage that worked or maybe was what they wanted. So it does seem like something a little off here about Season 2 and what might have went on behind the scenes. Again, though, speculation, nothing's confirmed, but it is interesting that there is so many editors. That's never a good sign. So, off the top of this episode, again, we see the scene right after they pushed Perry, and this time it's from Jane's perspective. But is this adding anything? No. This is just used so much now, this flashback, and it's really just not working. They're trying to make these flashbacks work like it did in Season 1, and it's just not happening for them. It's not really adding anything. It's just seeing Jane laying in bed thinking about it. Okay, great. We know they're all thinking about it. How many times are we going to see this? We know that moment happened. It's not revealing anything either. And then for the 700th time in this show, we see Nathan going to talk to Ed, and it's either always an apology from Nathan or they start fighting, and it's usually an apology leading to a fight. This scene we see with them, we've seen so many times already. Enough. You're just really hammering home this conflict they have. It's just beating a dead horse, and the joke is really old now. And it just, again, cut strange and weird with him just running away at the end. It just feels out of place. So now we see where things get a little more interesting is Mary Louise and Celeste with their lawyers talking to the judge. And Mary Louise sneaks in her 2 cents here, which she shouldn't be doing, but of course she's going to do it. She doesn't care. She knows it's her little way of manipulating the judge in an opening statement, saying that she believes that Celeste is a good mom and a good person, but she's just not well. And this infuriates Celeste, but her lawyer advises to just stay silent and wait. Now, I'm happy they addressed the elephant in the room, that Celeste is a lawyer, because they kind of have ignored that all season, and that it makes sense that she would be very judgmental of her lawyer and how she's approaching this case. But you see, the lawyer that Renata got, Celeste, is a less is more type and just looking to be credible to the judge and has a faith that the judge will see what's right, and saying that when I speak, the judge listens. So it's a dice roll, but it makes sense, that approach. And I agree what she said to Celeste was that their side is trying to establish you as unhinged. So getting a reaction out of you is what they want. They want to see that you're mentally unstable. So another really pointless scene is just, we see Bonnie's running in the woods again, thinking about what's happened. But then it weirdly cuts to her thinking about herself, thinking about what happened while running, while she's in the hospital room. It's like an Inception with Bonnie here, and it's just feels, again, out of place and edited very strangely. And what you get in this hospital scene is you see Nathan picks up the daughter. Great. What was the point of that? Just pure filler. However, a scene I really did like, a little story here, was with Madeline and Ed. I thought it was really funny already when Mad was driving him to this healing convention, and she starts trying to sing in front of him and impress him. And he's like, really? And the lyrics she's singing is just hysterical. It's like she's just trying way too hard. And I was laughing so hard at this hugging event and the way Madeline reacts to it and Ed. And it's so strange. I thought that was great. And I like they could bond about it for a second and laugh about it. So it kind of worked in that sense. But Ed just has some really good lines here when he confronts Madeline in the car, saying the first date we were on, it felt like an interview. Not an interview for a soulmate or a lover, but for a father. Abigail was destroyed after the divorce with Nathan, and you wanted to fix that. And he admits he was aware of this. He knows this was what was happening, but they were practical choices she was making. And then he said she went to impractical choices by having sex with Joe Bachman. And it puts me in the shoes of walking out with my dignity or staying with a woman I can't trust. Again, I think so many people can relate to this in relationships. It was really good writing here. and it makes Ed even more likable. And I think it really puts down all the theories people have about Ed secretly being a creep or a bad guy. I just think he has wandering eyes, but I think he has really good intentions as a person. He is really the most rational we've seen in the show. And then Madeline opens up saying that you probably cannot trust me not to F up again. And how she says subconsciously she wanted to be the destroyer, not the destroyee. Again, good writing, and makes sense for her character and why she's behaved how she has. And again, we learned about her parents splitting up and then Nathan not going right. So she has all these insecurities about marriage and family. But right when she was saying you probably can't trust me again, that's where I would have just left as Ed. However, until Madeline says the important line that even if I do F up, I promise you, you have my word, it will not be infidelity. So that was huge she said that and they wrote that line, because then it was like, okay, now there is some liking to Madeline on this side of the relationship. Because if she didn't say that, I would have been like, then why would Ed stay if you're just going to say you can't even trust yourself? But if she's promising that, I think that's realistic and fair. And everyone's going to mess up in other ways, including Ed. So yes, I think that was the thing he needed to hear. And Madeline admitting her self-esteem issues is also, I think, something Ed wanted to hear, and scores points for Madeline's getting more self-awareness now. So this was a really strong scene to me, and it was written very well. So we see Celeste goes to talk to Renata about the new lawyer she gave her. And Renata's like, let me talk to Mary Louise. I'll talk some sense into her. But what's great in the scene in the middle of that, she gets news from her receptionist that they're taking her out of the woman empowering piece in the magazine. And Celeste is like, it's just a magazine. And Renata's like, no, it's not. It's Woman in Power. We're supposed to be on the same side, not backstabbing sluts. So again, this just feeds into the Renata humor part of this story. And it is funny to see her world just crumbling apart, from her dancing in episode 1 in her house, all excited about it, to just, again, this bankruptcy thing killing her everywhere. But I thought it was so visually funny when Mary Louise gets to Renata's house and she rolls up in an office chair and there's no other furniture. It's just 2 chairs. And Mary Louise reads right through that, calling her out just being bankrupt. I really love seeing a moment too to have these 2 actresses together. They're both obviously bringing 110% to their roles, and they worked off each other great. Just the way Mary Louise says, I wish this could just be about tea and just be 2 people enjoying each other's company, and Renata's trying to like backstep, and the way Laura Dern just points to the tea like, oh yeah, it is about tea, right? Like, that was great. But you see Renata's not able to crack Mary Louise here. Mary Louise reads right through all this. But unfortunately, this still just felt like a filler scene and not totally necessary. Again, just felt like giving Renata something to do. So we see now this schoolyard bully comes up to Ziggy, saying his mom's hot. And then you see the twins come defend him, but this bully goes, he's your brother? That means your dad's a rapist. This is a super stretch to me. I mean, yeah, a kid could put together that Ziggy was a mistake, like he said, but where the hell is he getting the intel that that means the other father's a rapist? That could have just been an accident. That didn't make any sense to me. That was a super stretch. And unbelievable writing. So the 3 of them react though, and the twins have Ziggy's back, and they beat him up here. And you see Jane and Celeste are very triggered by this. This is their worst fears coming true. Again, they're always scared of these boys becoming like Perry. But I do think their actions are somewhat justifiable. I mean, that kid's saying the worst of worst to them and was the one initiating physical intimidation to Ziggy. I really think any boy in that situation would do that, defend like that. And I think Jane sees that, because Jane is the one pushing for them during their suspension to still go out and have some fun and not let these kids just sit there and sulk, because I think that would also make them really feel shameful about it. And I think Jane deep down knows it's not a terrible thing they did. But you see, Celeste has such a different reaction to her kids than Jane does to Ziggy, where Jane, to me, is getting the Mom of the Year award right now in Monterey, but Celeste is struggling with it. And you see Celeste says to the twins, violence not the answer. Yes, but if you're going to preach this, you got to show it. Because one of the kids tells her to stop being a B word, and this makes her snap violently in reaction. She has this in herself, and the kids can read that. It's hypocritical. But Celeste is aware of this, and you see she pulls back and calms down a bit, and Nicole Kidman shows that really well. But you see here she opens up to her kids about the grandma wanting custody of them. And this is a very risky move by Celeste to start opening up to them about details. And yes, there's a doctor coming to see them and talk to the kids, so they gotta know a bit, but it can get tricky there and start putting pressure on the kids in a way. So we see in the hospital now Bonnie's having flashes to her mom being violent with her. Again, this is probably her mother in an alcoholic state. And when she touches her mom, they have like this little voodoo connection because she sees the waves, which just stills Not really digging that plot line of the supernatural aspect to that she would even envision that. But then we also see now in this episode a quick little scene with Ed hugging his daughter, and he's getting emotional. He's tearing up a bit. Really good acting by Adam Scott. But again, it's just frustrating, and this feels like a mishmash of just scenes pulled together randomly. It was a 2-second scene. It almost feels like you're watching a highlight reel. So we see now Bonnie has this class for singing for sleep apnea, and she tells her dad that this is a cash cow. So obviously Bonnie's not as genuine as we think. She calls out her dad saying, look at you getting all involved. And he's like, what, you didn't think I protected you as a kid? And he grabs her pretty hard here. So this obviously is a weak spot for him. And she says he diffused stuff, but he didn't protect her. But you'll see later on in the episode when the dad sees Bonnie that he says he was protecting her by keeping the peace, saying that he was doing what he could to get the rage away from the mom and it would help him and Bonnie. So clearly the dad's a classic guy who still didn't do enough. Deep down he obviously wanted to protect Bonnie, but I think he was totally afraid of his wife and he messed up there, and Bonnie knows that. But I think Bonnie appreciates hearing some kind of admission there. But the dad lets her know the mom said Bonnie is drowning. And he says sometimes things she sees or feels turn out to be right, and now I'm worried. So you can see how this can totally mess with the kid's head as well, including Bonnie as an adult, that having a mother that thinks she can see the future and have these mystical prophecies that she tells you can be horrifying, because it's like telling a kid this is going to happen no matter what you do, and it's scary. So that clearly shows you how much that would mess up Bonnie's head. So that kind of gave a better spin on this whole new supernatural thing, which maybe opened up to it a little bit at least, that it was a little more like, okay, she has these visions, but hopefully they're not always true, and that it would be some kind of justification for why Bonnie is clearly messed up from that. Again, I just don't know how I totally feel about that. So it's a little better with the mom story. Now again, Celeste is with her lawyer, meeting with Mary Louise. And her lawyer, and Dennis O'Hare plays this perfectly, because when he's proposing the joint custody thing to Nicole Kidman, she's like, no, and just keeps saying no, and he keeps just saying back, just hear me out. Totally like a lawyer would. It's so just robotic. I love how he portrays that. But you see this joint custody proposes Celeste to have the kids during the week and Mary Louise have them on the weekend, and that Celeste has to go to alcohol and drug treatment and anger management. And this makes Celeste snap. Clearly what this lawyer of hers did not want, getting a rise out of her. And my issue again, Nicole Kidman gets praised for everything, but I do not appreciate that Australian accent coming in so heavy. When she says, you'll not get my boys, not for a second, that she has like 3 lines in a row that are completely Australian. I know it's an emotional moment as an actress, but come on, it's still just half effort to me in that sense. Get the whole thing down. So the lawyer suggests maybe take this offer because this can get even worse in court. So many possibilities can happen, and obviously she's alluding to they're going to use other stuff, and that could be child abuse, it could be her substance abuse, all of that. But the interesting thing she says is that the husband's death will come up, and this now directly affects the whole Monterey Five, because it will put them on the stand here, and that inevitably they'll ask about how Perry died, and they'll have to lie under oath, which is perjury. But if Celeste completely avoids this court situation, she'll believe she'll lose her kids. But the thing is, even if they commit perjury, they talk about how they would have to prove that they're lying. But Bonnie's like, what if they can? And again, Madeline doing the opposite reaction, where she's trying to just calm everyone down. Let's just stick together, and clearly wants to keep the lie going. And you can just tell here, this is what was already triggering Bonnie to, as we see later on, go to the cops. Like, screw this. So I do appreciate they're connecting that story to the murder and getting us more involved with this murder, because it's kind of disappeared for a bit now. And it became too much the center storyline about keeping these kids, which is just not interesting to me. We see those stories in Lifetime movies, Hallmark Channel, soap operas. We don't need it here. That's not Big Little Lies. Can't have that the main focus, so I'm happy they kind of pushed it towards the murder. But you see Celeste has this important scene with the twins, and she's telling them, look, like, this doctor's gonna come. It's important you say that you want to live with me. And they're like, should we say we don't like grandma too? And Celeste, is thinking about it for a moment, but she says no, which was smart. Because if the kids said yes, that would already look suspicious, and that she's almost pressuring the kids. And they're like, we'll protect you. We'll say whatever you want us to say. And this is really sad in a way, because it's already showing you how this is, no matter what, an ugly situation, like the lawyer had warned to Mary Louise, and that the kids were going to be affected by this. This also shows how they're definitely going to have resentment now towards the grandma, and that they like the other lawyers were saying too, the kids are always the losers here, and how bad this inevitably just messes them up, putting them in such a tough spot and already feeling like they have to protect their mom at such a young age. So very well written scene. I like how they went back to that and how it affects the kids. And again, we get these cut scenes real fast where just Madeline and Abby run to Mary Louise. She tells them, it's messed up what you're doing to try to take away your kids. It's so short though. It's like this quick thing. It's like, I don't understand what the point of it is. They're not even scenes at this point. A nice scene I really liked in this episode was with Corey and Jane. It set up the twist really well and give the twist more punch, but also made you really like Corey before you're ever going to hate him now. And I really do like this story with Jane and Corey because it feels so earned and it feels like such a nice continuation from season 1 in Jane's story. It's not out of left field where some of the other stuff feels like that. And they did such a good job messing with your head because you really like Corey here. He's so sensitive and gentle with Jane, understanding. And when Jane cries, that really hit me. And it's like just showing you a really good job of how much rape victims suffer after the rape and how it affects them psychologically. And you're like, oh, well, Corey did all the right things again, but it's, oh man, it makes that twist later on just sting, which we'll get to. And I really like they address in the next scene where Jane's talking to Celeste. And Jane's like, amazing you're able to enjoy sex all the time despite everything. And Celeste basically admits, because I'm effed up. It's so funny just to see the two different reactions to that behavior where Jane can't even process sexual feelings and get through them and enjoy it. And Celeste is like embracing the weird part of it and the sick part of it. And that brings up too, just in the beginning of this episode, she's thinking about having violent sex with another man that I did not recognize. If anyone caught who that was, it wasn't Perry. It wasn't the bartender. So I wonder if there's just other guys too she's having this violent sex with, and they show little clips of it. And remember too, in the beginning of the season, she had a little flash of her having sex with a guy with a tattoo. So she's like feeding that addiction and filling in that missing part she was getting from Perry of violent sex. So really quickly, we see the mom actually speaks up to Bonnie now and says, kill me, title of this episode. That can mean a lot of things. I'm not really sure where they're going with that, but I'd love to hear your comments on that line and what you think that means and why she said it there. But now we get this really great closing montage, and the first big twist we get, there she is in the flesh. Tori appears to Ed at the bar, and not only Tori, but we see her husband, Joe, sitting across from them. What is up with that? And I love how Tori pulls Ed's shirt, seducing him. But why is Joe there watching? I'd love to hear theories on this as well. And it's great to see Tori again. I just interviewed the actress Sarah Sokolovich, who plays Tori, and she talks all about the character and her headspace. So please make sure to check out that interview I did with her after you finish this review. And then we get an even bigger twist going on here. And Bonnie goes to the police station and she sees Corey come out. So now you know, okay, he's in with the police. He is a mole. He's playing Jane. But now you're going to wonder too, a big theory people had was that he was working for Mary Louise. So does he know Mary Louise, or is it just purely from the cop? We'll find out, but that's so incredibly disappointing for Corey. I really liked him, but he was a snake, and he's been feeding information on Jane. And this is going to crush Jane. And I wonder how this goes, but this show really needed two twists like this, and I'm so happy they threw them in to really amp things up. We only got 2 episodes left, so we needed that, and we need to get back to the murder, which they did. This episode to me was much better than last week. I ripped up last week's episode. This was an improvement. However, it still wasn't amazing in my eyes. The kid's storyline is just not the most interesting about the custody. The luster we got from the impending mystery and murder in season 1, they need to amp it up more, but you see they're going that way, again adding twists and getting back to that, which I appreciate. But please, let's see this cop they keep showing us who gets 1 or 2 lines an episode. Let's delve into it more. Let's get into the dirt. We only got 2 episodes left. I do like their setting up. I think this finale will be a courtroom scene involving all the girls with the custody battle, so that should be good. And courtroom scenes always work well in a finale, so that might be sick to see and how that plays out with all these big actresses together. Next week, it should be a good episode. It's called The Bad Mother, so I'm hoping it's gonna delve us into Mary Louise's backstory and really get into her mindset and let Meryl Streep rock the house a bit. But overall, I'm gonna give this episode an 8.4. Let me know what you thought of it down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I read every comment, try to respond to as many as I can. Again, please make sure to check out my interview with the actress of Tori, Sarah Sokolovich. We talk all about this season, and she's a really cool person and gives some really good acting advice as well, so check that out. And please follow me at SteveVarley1 on Twitter and Instagram for more of me. And please like this video, share it. Please help to get the word out. I appreciate every one of you, and I'll see you next time.